Okay. So, DJ said the truth about BDO Steam charts. All right. I have very, very extreme thoughts about looking at BDO Steam charts. I've said it many times. You have to look at the trend and less at the number. So many people get bogged down with the number. You're looking at the trend on the graph. But we'll see what he has to say about it.
Oh, they're gonna sell another one. FK fishing is just a pity way for them to retain players, so that the Steam charts don't look like shit. Okay.
I mean, he's right. I mean, you know, like, I mean, he's right? Like,
let's say we have a fantasy game, yeah? Let's say we have a fantasy game.
J.E. Kim, is that you?
It's called, let's say it's called Old Liberty. And this year,
God, what game could he be talking about?
is all people playing the game. Total players.
Mm-hmm. Is this EU handwriting? What the f did you just write on that whiteboard, homie? If I clip this out of context and I asked like somebody, what is that word right there? They're probably gonna say like project, right? No one is guessing players. Okay, we gotta work on the handwriting. And in fairness, as somebody that's an ex-teacher, writing on a whiteboard seems kind of awkward at first when you do it, but it's actually not bad.
What is a player of a video game? So let's say you are you downloaded Battlefield 6 when it got released, yeah? Bought it, you downloaded it, you played the game for 3 hours. Then your mom had the dinner ready, and you had to stop playing. So you quit BDO. You exited Battlefield 6 because there's no AFK fishing in Battlefield 6, and you went to dinner with your family. Afterwards, your girlfriend convinces you to go to the movies, and you go to the movies. Afterwards, you go have a drink.
Girlfriend.
You have a nice evening the entire time. You're not locked into Battlefield 6. The next day, the next morning, your girlfriend leaves early because it's a Saturday shopping day with the girls, whatever. And you are like,
oh, she has a penis. Oh, okay, all right.
Hey, I go play Battlefield 6 again, yeah, because now you have time again. Now you weren't locked into Battlefield 6 for 15, 16 hours, but you were still a Battlefield 6 player. Yeah, you would, for example, participate in, I don't know, when something new gets released to the game, you're loading into the game. In an mmorpg, for example, you are part of a guild. You are regularly doing your chest runs in Cutlass Keys. You are doing your Gorgon raid. You are doing your World of Warcraft ID.
Dude, I think D-Jules has gotten hotter over the years. And I mean this as a completely ungay, not homosexual person at all. I think that he's actually more attractive here than he was like 3 years ago. I'm just being real. Anyway.
You do whatever you do in Lost Ark, you do your raid and so on. Yeah. So how many of these people, let's say the game is released in different regions, how many of these people are logged into the game at the same time? Maybe like this, concurrent players. Maybe like this many? Because most people who are active players are not logged into the game at the same time. So every game, when this is 20,000, let's say that is 20,000 people logged in, doing something in New World right now, then the game needs to have a multitude of these 20,000 to hit 20,000 concurrent players, because the majority is not in the game right now. The game is released in North America.
Okay. He's not the best with words, but what he's saying is, based on a chart like this, okay, if you look at the average like game, like period, and this is like this pie chart represents how many people are actually playing the game actively, right? He's saying that in Black Desert, in a normal game, it's reversed. I'm fairly certain that's what he's saying. In a normal game, like Battlefield 6, most of the players are active, right? Most of the players are active. And like the vast minority of players are sitting in like lobbies, like not doing anything. Right? But in Black Desert, it is reversed. Right? It is reversed. You have your inactive and your active. Right?
North America is still sleeping, even when we have afternoon in EU. The game is maybe also released in where it's already in New Zealand. It's already night again. Yeah, like Forky is going to bed soon. And when these people are sleeping, they're not in the game. People are doing something else but play the game because, well, you don't have to play a game for 12 hours a day. You can just play the game for an hour. So a game to hit 20,000 concurrent players needs to have a multitude of this as total players who play the game throughout the day and throughout the week.
Okay, I understand what he's saying, and he's right. What he's saying is that this is the 20K active players for a normal game. Right here. This is the total players. Okay, so the full circle represents the total amount of players that actively play Battlefield 6 in a day. Okay, but the pie, the little signet thing right here, okay, the little pie slice, that represents who is logged in at this very moment. Because in Battlefield 6, when you're not actively playing the game, you log out. That doesn't mean you're not a Battlefield 6 player. It just means that you're not online right now. Okay? And so he's saying that if the total graph represents the total amount of players, and Battlefield 6 Steam charts say 20K active players, which I'm sure that's way higher, but let's say for the sake of argument, it's 20K active players, or it says it's 20K
Happy
active.
Halloween, Baldy.
It says 20K on Steam charts. He's saying that means a wild amount different than what BDO means, right? Because when you look at Battlefield 6 on Steam, if it says 20K active, I don't know. What's Battlefield? What is Battlefield 6 Steam charts? They probably have way more. Yeah. Okay. So just to be clear, they have like 400 and whatever thousand. Okay. But we're just using it for the sake of argument. Okay. We'll say that any game, well, Guild Wars 2 is a good example too, but like we'll use Battlefield 6. Any game like this is going to be like this, where there's a much larger total player base, right? And only a certain amount of that player base is active on Steam at a given time. So when you look at Steam charts, you're looking at the active players. How many people are currently logged in? You're not looking at the total players. You're looking at how many people are actively logged in, okay, in a day, right? But for BDO, it is completely different, and I'm sure that's what he's getting at, is that BDO's Steam charts do not represent what our active players are. It's not, it's like, oh, well, there's way more people that play BDO, they're just not logged in right now. No. BDO's Steam charts represent the total players that log in a 24-hour bit. Like that is it. That is all we have. And if we lose those players, it is much more impactful on the game than if Battlefield 6 doesn't have people, right? Yeah, Battlefield 6 is the opposite. Pre-watched? No, that's just what he's explaining right now. He's literally just explaining this to you right now. It's just that he's D-Jules, so it's a little tougher, right?
And the important part is that the developers, of course, know this. If you have 20,000 concurrent players, and you have, especially, like let's say there's console players and so on, you have, in the end, you have way more than 150, 200,000 people who at some point during the week or during every day, but every week at some point play the game. If you know this as a developer, then you are of course creating content for all these people. Yeah, that is the important part. But this factor does not exist in B. This factor,
what's the eraser
factor does not exist in B.
The cut is crazy. He didn't even pick it up. The cut, he didn't. That's still up there. So he cut it, which means that he lost it. He threw the eraser across the room or something. Either way, he stopped recording, and he was like, "God damn it!" Threw it across the room. Didn't even put the eraser back. Said, "F it," and we go again.
Exist in BDO.
Holy.
On a very, very smaller scale. In Black Desert Online, you have the amount of concurrent players way closer to the amount of total players. It's not 100%.
He's 100% correct.
100%, of course. But the amount of players who are currently logged into the game in Black Desert Online is way, way closer to the amount of people who are playing the game throughout the day and throughout the week. And this is why the game has so many fewer players than all these games like Throne and Liberty.
And he's right. He's absolutely, I know that people like to be on copium about this, but like what I have been saying about BDO for the last like 6 months to a year now, I guess 6 months or so, is that this little pie thing. So if we look at the pie chart, now it doesn't represent, I guess that the pie chart represents total players, right? And if this represents inactive players. My concern with BDO over the last like 6 months to a year has not been that the total players of BDO is going to go down. That's not what I've been saying. And if you think that, then you're just an idiot. My concern is that the amount of, because we're going to have to put this at this active players. Okay. My concern is that this little pie chart has become a lot smaller, right? Total players remains roughly the same. Maybe it's declined a little bit, but roughly the same, or is up from last year, whatever. I don't really think it's necessarily up from October necessarily. Well, I guess it's honestly October of last year, we were bottoming out at the lowest we've ever had. So honestly, that bar is not fair to look at. But like typically speaking, our total players are not necessarily super declining right now, but I am concerned that our active players and the reason to actively play the game is declining, right? And again, I've made this argument before. When people quit BDO, they don't quit it all at once. They go like, they just get, so this line represents how actively you play the game, right? You start playing the game less and less and less actively. And sooner or later, the amount that you AFK in the game ends up being like 98% of your playtime. And that's when people start letting go of even AFK stuff. And so that was my argument for what's been going on. But he does make he's 100% right. And another thing that people don't look at when they look at these Steam charts is they just don't understand how to read a graph. And it's funny because when all the see, like this trend is not good. It's funny when the view botting shit came out. Everybody remembers when the view botting shit came out, and I got a crazy amount of hate over calling out the streamers I called out over the view botting shit. And how many people told me I didn't know how to read a graph? They said, oh, he doesn't know how to read a graph. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Ex-teacher, by the way, used to be in medicinal like research, published papers in science, but that's fine. Yeah, as it turns out, I was correct. And when it comes to reading a graph, most people's skills at reading a graph are rudimentary at best. Okay, rudimentary at best. Most people do not understand. When they look at the Steam charts, they're like, oh, number big. They don't they don't understand, right? Like what they're actually looking at. Because the number on Steam doesn't really mean a whole lot for BDO, mainly because one, what G Jules is saying, a lot of them are inactive players, but two, and more importantly, we have the client, right? There's a client too, so you can roughly double the numbers here, but like we don't really necessarily know how many people are on the client. But like you're looking at a trend. It's a trend. Okay, you're looking at the trend on the graph. So like if we lost 10% of our players here, and then we lost 7% of our players here, and now we're losing again in November as we start November. So we lost 10%, we lost 7%, and then we lose again in November. The trend is downward. You can see the trend of the graph is down. The number doesn't matter, but you think you get the trend. So you look at the overall, like, are people quitting BDO? Yes. How many people are quitting BDO? Who knows, right? You're looking at the trend on the graph. About 7% in the last month have stopped playing the game. Right, and you can tell it's already going to start trending down. November, I don't know. Now, last year at this time, you can see, like I said, this was the lowest. This was almost the record low for Black Desert Online in its history on Steam. There's only one other time in history where we were barely lower than this, and the reason for this is that they changed Node Wars. They ripped PvP, they got rid of one-sided decks, and then they changed Node Wars. They destroyed PvP in the game. Right. Then in November, December, somewhere in here, the expansion released in November. The expansion released in November, and then we had the Calpheon Ball in December. And then at the Calpheon Ball, they promised us that they were going to bring Node Wars back, and they were going to bring PvP back, so a bunch of people came back. Then people started losing faith over time here, and you can see that this was the Heidel Ball right here. We still lost players at the Heidel Ball, but then we had the expansion again, and that brought a lot of people back, but now we're minus, right? And so, like, it goes through, we typically go through the same cycle, but people just don't understand how to read a graph, and they definitely don't understand how to interpret data. The average person has no idea. Part of the reason I am good at content creation is because I can read a graph and I can understand what the data and what the information is telling me on that graph. And when I look at BDO's graph right now, I see a relatively normal trend. If I'm being honest, I think that we're seeing like a relatively normal trend in decline in player base through September, October, because that's, you know, the ball happens in June, July. We get an expansion, we get all the content, and then people start leaving the game. Now, are we going to continue declining in November? Because that's pretty November decline, not good. If this trend continues in November, that's not good. Okay, especially into the end of November, that would be very bad. And especially when the Masterclass tournament is going on, which is supposed to generate a tremendous amount of hype for the game. It's our equivalent of Worlds. I know that's like an unfair comparison, but like this tournament only comes around like once every 7 years, right? So it's supposed to generate a tremendous amount of hype for the game. So like if we still see negative players coming to the game, even with AOS coming in and even with the Masterclass tournament coming in and all of that stuff, we're still seeing negative numbers. I would say that is cause for concern. As somebody that BDO is his job. Honestly, I'm thinking about quitting. I'm quitting video. I think he meant BDO. I'm on console. I'm 780 gear score and the gear is inclined if you don't pay money. I've been playing since beta on console. I've been so drained. I've been playing like a vampire survivor. I mean, like, you should never really try to, like, you should never look at BDO and be like, I have to spend money. I will say that the threshold for spending money has decreased dramatically by like 200 to 300% over the last like 3 or 4 years here. Compared to like the pay to win margin, compared to what it was before. But you shouldn't feel like you necessarily have to spend money on the game to progress. Like you don't feel that way, especially in a console setting. Bro, just handle it casually. Most of the console players are, yes, they're hardcore players from a console perspective, but if you compare them to some of our hardcore players on like PC, it's not even a contest, right? Typically console users are less serious gamers. They're like, you know, they sit down, they play at their PlayStation or their Xbox for a few hours. They've got lives, they've got girlfriends, they've got wives, whatever. They've got shit going on in their lives, so they can't afford a PC or whatever. They do enjoy BDO, but they can't play it as much as like a PC gamer who's just going to sit there and no life, unemployed, play the game like forever. Now, there are exceptions to this on console, but like, you should not feel like you have to spend money on the game. Now, that being said, this is what he's trying to explain. It definitely gets in deeper than this, what he's explaining, but he's absolutely on point with this explanation. When you look at Black Desert Steam charts, it is a categorical representation. This is our total players. Okay, like on Steam, this is our total players. This is not our active players. If you look at Guild Wars 2, it's definitely a lot more, because there's not much AFK activities to do in Guild Wars 2. So you are logging in to play the game, and then when you're not playing Guild Wars 2, you log out, right? So the Guild Wars 2 Steam charts seem a lot lower, but what D-Jules is saying is it's actually a lot closer to like what like BDO's active player base. I would say that BDO probably is even less than this, a little bit less than this on Steam, at least for sure. It might be even half this on Steam, because we also have the client players too. And I would say that there's maybe 5,000 players that are actively playing at any given point in time. But like, you look at this, there's probably about the same amount of like total players that are playing Guild Wars 2 right now that are maybe playing BDO. Guild Wars 2 might even be a little bit more popular than BDO. Depends on the time of year. There's also a lot of content creators playing Guild Wars 2 right now, so like that is helping them a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. But like, yeah, this is what he's trying to explain. Most people use the launcher for Guild Wars 2. Yes, and the same can be said for BDO. You're still missing you've missed the argument. Just whoosh. Didn't even graze your head as it went by. It legitimately didn't even graze your head, right? But that's fine.
All these games like New World, because you have so many people just locked into the game permanently.
This graph only covers NA, EU, not KR, MENA, or whatever else.
Right. But there's a lot. But you've seen the income that BDO makes, right? You've seen the quarterly breakdowns for BDO, and the NA-EU make up at least 60%, of the overall income for the game, which means NA and EU make up the lion's share of the players for the game. And again, you can look at if NA and EU are quitting the game en masse, or the players are declining, you can assume that the same thing is also happening in Korea and Asia, because that is the trend. The Koreans that play this game think a lot like we do, a lot like the players in the West. We have a very, very similar mentalities on what we want out of Black Desert. Now, some of it is a little bit different, like culturally, but like on the whole, they didn't want one-sided decks. They didn't want all this other stuff either. They just, and they're not happy with the weekly gated content, right? They're not the ones asking for this crap. It's the devs just giving it to us, right?
And what Parnabis did throughout the years is, when they saw that the players quit the game, think about it. How much more pay to win did they make the game in the past year?
Probably about 100% more. It's about 100%. Because 2 years ago, you would have had to spend at least $25 to $30. I would say it was like $25, maybe 20. You could either spend $25 or grind for an hour. And now it's only like $6 if you're buying the rolly boxes, right? So it's actually like 300%. Like it is way, way more pay to win than it used to be. Now they do give players, if you want to look at it from the other perspective, they do give players more stuff than they ever have, right? Like in terms of pets and maids and stuff like that. But in terms of like the pay to win, we're talking about pay to win specifically, it's definitely a lot more pay to win, right? I thought it's because of Korea that play the game is as grindy as it is. No. Like most of the Korean players think a lot like we do in terms of like what they grind for, what they get out of BDO, and what they put into BDO, and why they play the game. It's actually remarkably similar across the regions.
Their revenue is not going up. How is that possible? How do you make a game more pay to win, but your revenue doesn't skyrocket? Like, look how
Because you've lost players. You've lost active players.
pay to win they make the game. Why does that happen? Well, they have less customers. Yeah, it's a pretty simple answer. So what did they do in late 2024 to fix their Steam numbers? They buffed the shit out of AFK fishing. So what they actually do, what they actually did throughout the years is, when the player numbers drop, buff AFK money. Let's call it better, buff.
Look at this handwriting.
Passive income. What happens if you buff passive income? Passive income is from your workers, from fishing, logging.
That's a C. By the way. That's a C.
Rewards, all of this stuff. What happens? What happens when you do this? When you buff passive income, you incentivize more of your remaining players to stay locked into the game. If you, let's say a BDO player is, let's say he was not locked into the game for once. He comes home and Battlefield 6 releases, and he bought the game, he pre-downloaded the game, and he wants to play Battlefield 6. When BDO gives him 100k silver per hour in AFK in passive income, do you think this player would bother logging in?
Just came back to BDO, can't buy new character slots with loyalty, instantly left because I have to delete my character to try new classes. I hate it when I'm right.
Into BDO before he plays Battlefield 6? Probably not. But what if that player knows that per hour you get, I'm just pulling out a number, 250 million silver per hour? Now you maybe take the 2 minutes of loading into BDO, set up your AFK fishing, and then play Battlefield 6. How willing are you to leave your PC on overnight? Depends on how much silver you make overnight. When I played the game actively, I always left my PC on during pouch events. When there were certain fishing events, I left my PC on. But when there was no event, I didn't, because it wasn't worth it. And what Parnabis did throughout the years is they buffed the passive income so that more of the existing remaining players lock into the game. And that is why people believe that the player numbers of BDO are actually stable.
The worst part. The worst part is he's 100% right. The worst part is that our developers actively try to gaslight us on this issue. Do you guys remember the dev note, like 2 or 3 dev notes ago? Maybe Note can find the clip or something in post. But there's a dev note, like 2 or 3 dev notes ago, where they literally said, yeah, no, we've noticed that so many adventurers are now enjoying fishing, that we've buffed the fishing content. We're very happy about that. And so we're going to expand on it, and we're going to do all this other stuff because everyone is, oh my gosh, look at this great thing that we've done with fishing. Because they are gaslighting you. Because, see, they know, right? They're not. They know that the reason that everyone is AFK fishing is for the money. But they need to gaslight their player base into thinking that people are genuinely enjoying fishing, and that's the reason that they do the content. Mark my words, okay? God is my witness. My savings account, I put my savings account on it. Every dime in my savings account, I would put on this statement, okay? If they buffed AFK horse training to make more money than AFK fishing, like significantly more money than AFK fishing, everyone would stop AFK fishing and everyone would be horse trading, and it would happen almost overnight. It's not even a question. It's not even remotely a question. Of course they're going to do it. Okay? Because people are just going to do what makes them money, right? But what is really annoying is when our devs are just, you know what? I'm going to pull it up. I bet I can find it. Here it is.
Now, let's talk about some upcoming life skills. We've been steadily patching all life activities. Compared to around in particular, has really taken more adventurous.
This. Are you guys ready to be gaslit? Are you guys ready to be gaslit? Here we go. 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 This is the ultimate gaslight. The ultimate gaslight. First of all, look at this guy's face. That's crazy.
Activities. Compared to around this time last year, way more adventurers are diving into live content.
Now, why could that be, Wansu?
Fishing in particular has really taken off thanks to its relaxed and AFK-friendly nature.
No! Really? Say it ain't so!
We're planning more tweaks to ensure other life skill activities can shine in their own ways.
This was 6 months ago, by the way. Tweaks.
Today, we'll share a few of those updates with you. First up is training, a popular AFK option alongside fishing.
Really? Popular AFK? Again?
We've been thinking about adding fresh features to training and ways to boost your earnings. Right now, when you capture a wild horse,
it's still dog shit. I just want to point out, I love it. We want it to be able to compete with fishing, but we're going to buff the active aspect of horse trading instead of the passive aspect of horse trading. Okay, well then it's not going to compete with fishing. Do you know why? Because people don't fish because it's an enjoyable experience. They're not fishing because the content is good. It's because they're making silver, Wansu. Yeah. And I think that they know that. I think I'm past this our devs are arc. I think that they genuinely know what the they're doing, and they're doing it intentionally, and it's all just an elaborate gaslight. It's all just an elaborate gaslight. I think they're just trying to gaslight you into thinking that, like, oh, so many adventurers are so interested in fishing. No one gives a shit about fishing. No one cares. The only thing is, how much money am I making? Because if they lower fishing to only be 200 million a night, how many people actually keep fishing? No one. No one.
They're dropping players left and right. Why do you think Polybus designs content like War of the Roses? 600 players.
War of the who? War of the what?
600 players for an entire region. Bi-weekly content, heavily rewarded. Do you know what happens if you put that content into New World? But if you put that in Throne and Liberty, there's more people, there's more than 600 people right now doing chest runs on my New World server. I have played sieges in
Throne.
Throne and Liberty when I played the game.
Throne and Liberty had more active sieges than BDO by about 4 times. There were about 4 to 7 times as many people in the least populated siege in Throne and Liberty that I had ever done. Like, legitimately. Like, you're talking in BDO, siege, maybe a few hundred people, server-wide in all of North America. Few hundred people, maybe. Maybe. Okay? In Throne, thousands. Thousands. Like,
had more players than these 600. The first siege that I participated in Throne and Liberty had 2,000 people. They make content
on just his server. On just his server. He's talking about, he's not even thinking about it like I am. I'm thinking about it like every siege in BDO, Calpheon siege, Valencia siege, Balanos siege, Medaya siege, all of them. I'll put all of those together across all of NA. Okay. Throne of Liberty has more people on one of its channels during one siege than all of North America, all of BDO does across all regions, like, or across all of its, Calpheon, like all of its channels, right? Like, unbelievable. Like, 10x the amount of people, bro.
It was 600 players. 600. And they get away with it. There's no one complaining about it. Why? Because 600 players is plenty for some BDO regions. Maybe BDO EU could
600 players is good eating.
Could fill that more often, because it's actually probably the most popular region still. But 600 slots actually a lot in BDO, because there's just so few people left playing the game actively. And you just think that
and he's using PvP as an example, but for the in my comment section, because I already know, like, nobody okay, all right, so but like it's the same thing for PvE too, okay, all right, before I get some autistic screecher of a comment in YouTube or even on my Twitch chat, like, I know it's coming, all right, I already know that it's about to happen. I'm trying to head it off at the pass, okay, but it's the same thing for PvE.
Player numbers are actually stable, but the game is slowly but steady dying. And is that a problem for Pluribus? No, it's not, because the solution or the light at the end of the tunnel for them is, I think it's the 19th of March 2026, because when they release Crimson Desert and the
God damn it! I was hoping that maybe I was different, right? Like, maybe maybe my breakdown is wrong. Maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm not like the other girls. Nah, his assessment is the exact same as mine. It's so cooked. And the worst part is that I think that what Pluribus is going to realize is that Crimson Desert is a massive success for 2 to 3 months tops. And then it doesn't make them any money at all. And that doesn't make them any money at all. And what they're going to realize is that, oh shit, we need BDO. Oh my God. No.
The shareholders will be happy, their revenue will skyrocket, and BDO did what it was supposed to do. It gets them all the way until they release to Crimson Desert. But this...
I don't think it's necessarily that bad, but I do think that they 100% put, like, BDO, the BDO devs that used to work on our game are working on Crimson Desert. Guarantee it. They brought in new people to work on our game during Crimson Desert. I was on Copium before that it wasn't happening. Now I know for sure, and I guarantee you, when our devs come back, they're going to be like, what the did you do? They're going to be like, what in the is this shit? Right? Like our old devs understood PvPers. They understood PvPers just innately. They understood PvEers. They understood life skillers. They understood their players. Okay? They didn't necessarily listen to us, but they were us. So they understood. Our new devs came in, they had no BDO experience before, guaranteed they got trained in a number of weeks or a month or two working with the previous devs, but they don't understand the heart and soul of the game. They don't understand their players, and that's why we have had one disastrous update after another. Like, you take a look at the AI maids. Look at the all-in-one content, the all-in-one preset. Disaster. Edonia. Weekly gated bullshit. I bet the devs come back to that, they're like, what in the is this shit, bro? Bro thinks they're coming back. No, I think they're going to come back, but I think that Whether they're going to be able to change anything or not remains to be seen. But I think that they will come back because they won't be able to necessarily develop Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert's going to be an ARPG. I'm sorry, an RPG, right? It's not going to be a live service game when it comes out. It just releases and then they're just they're just going to be unemployed. You think they're just going to let those people go? Like, what? You just think they're just just let the people that literally built the foundation of our company just let them go? No, they're going to bring them back. If anything, they'll lay off all the losers that have been managing our game here. The question is, are they going to be able to actually change anything or fix what was done to our game previously? Don't know. But I will, it's absolutely their focus. Yeah, there's no question. There's no question that they took our best devs and they put them on Crimson Desert. And you can see that because look at how Crimson Desert is designed. Look at if you're a warrior, you look at the skills, you're like, oh, that's my warrior skill. Or you look at the bosses and the different mechanics and stuff that people can do in game, right? It's like they took BDO's PvP system or their combat system and they expanded on it. They're like, what if we went like more pro wrestler with it? You know what I mean? And like they expanded on the stuff that you could do with that system. And that's what we should have been getting in BDO, but we never really could because the client like limits us, right? What if they just keep developing DLC expansions for Crimson Desert? That's possible, right? That is possible, in which case we are certifiably cooked. Now, that being said, again, I think that our devs before, we never really had to kick and scream as a community because, like, I'll be honest with you, the devs never really listened to us for the first, like, 8 years that I played the game. For the first like, 6 years I played the game, the devs didn't listen to us at all. But it didn't really matter because they kept, like, nailing it. Most of the time, they would be like, the progression, right? You know, you think back to 2018, 2022 BDO, they nailed it, right? Seasonal was a great addition to the game. They like T1 Node Wars and like capped PvP was a great addition to large scale PvP. Like they understood, right? And then like progression and stuff felt really strong, and there was like a lot of diversity in what you could do and whatnot. And you'll notice that back then there were group grind zones too. Everybody else remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Back then, group grind zones were a thing. They were absolutely a thing. You think back to Castle Ruins. You think back to Turos. You think back to even Sawsons. You think back and everywhere in between. It wasn't until recently that all of that shit just went away. All of that shit is just gone now, right? And so I'm concerned that so the previous devs, they understood, and did they f things up? They absolutely f things up. 100%. I'm not saying that the old devs were infallible, but they got it right like 80% of the time. And the community was okay with that. The new devs get it right less than 50% of the time. AI maids. All in one preset. Adonia weekly gated content. Missing Guild League. Guild League just didn't happen this time. Hardcore servers. Like these people, they don't get it. They don't get it. And that would be okay if they listened to their player base. But they learned from our old devs, and the old devs were like, the player base is going to kick and scream, but as long as you know what's best, they will accept it, and it will be okay. And for them, that worked because they were at least close enough to what we wanted that it was fine, and it was workable as a community. Now, our current developers, they're so far off the mark that if they don't listen to the community, people quit. And that's what we saw last year. The new developers came up with a new Node War system. They don't understand what the is going on. They have no idea what a PvPer actually wants in the game. And it's just a disaster. It's a disaster, right? And so we lost like 40% of our players, all in like the span of 1 or 2 months. And that's catastrophic. That was catastrophic. Like that was really bad. And so like, and you see us trending down this. Do you think that the devs of 4 or 5 years ago would have given us the same Adonia weekly gated crap that we have today? Or do you think it would have been better? I think it would have been better, personally. But you guys can let me know what you think. I personally think that they could have done it better. Like, can't wait for Old Liberty. Half the player base is just AFK fishing. I would say probably more than half. More than half of the Steam charts are probably AFK fishing. Here it is right here. This is the video. I encourage you to go to interact with it. I'll put it on all 3 platforms here.